The history of the U.S.S. Excelsior. The U.S.S. Excelsior NX-2000, later NCC-2000, was a 23rd century Federation Excelsior-class starship, operated by Starfleet. Excelsior was the prototype of her class. Dubbed the Great Experiment, the Excelsior was conceived during the early 2280s as the first Starfleet vessel equipped with a transwarp drive, an awe-inspiring concept to some. Traditional engineers were somewhat more skeptical, as in the case of Montgomery Scott, who expressed his doubt in the transwarp drive with the analogy, "And if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon." Designed under radically new principles of propulsion, the Excelsior has potential for becoming the fastest starship in the entire Federation at that time. The Starfleet record for faster-than-light travel was warp factor 14.1 set by the U.S.S. Enterprise in 2269. By 2285, the Excelsior was under the command of Captain Stiles, and had taken a berth in Earth space dock as she prepared for trial runs. The Excelsior was a few days away from her first field test of the transwarp drive, when she was unexpectedly called for duty. The crew of the U.S.S. Enterprise, attempting to rejoin Captain Spock's Katra with his regenerated body, hijacked the Enterprise for an illegal journey to the Genesis planet. Captain Stiles, confident in his new incredible machine, was ordered to pursue as the Enterprise entered warp. However, Captain Montgomery Scott, assigned to Captain of Engineering on board the Excelsior, had sabotaged the ship's transwarp computer, leaving the Excelsior dead in space. Proud of his accomplishments, Scott explained that the more they overthink the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain. Following this embarrassing failure, the Excelsior essentially spent the next 2 years in space dock. In 2286, she was briefly ordered to be launched during an apparent attack by an alien probe, but the Excelsior, as well as the space dock, lost all internal power and was left stranded in her bay. After the Enterprise had destroyed the Genesis planet, Hakato Sulu believed that he and the Enterprise shipmates would be assigned to the Excelsior, before learning their next assignment was on the USS Enterprise A. At that time, Montgomery Scott believed the Excelsior to be nothing more than a bucket of bolts. The Excelsior remained in space dock until at least 2287, before subsequently being recommissioned for active service by the end of the decade. Prior to her recommission, the Excelsior was refitted with a new bridge module, which also included significant modifications to the aft portion of the saucer section surrounding the impulse drive and a modification to the cargo bay. By 2290, the Excelsior was under the command of now Captain Hakato Sulu. His first assignment was a 3-year mission cataloging gaseous planetary anomalies in the Beta Quadrant. In 2293, the Excelsior was returning to Federation space following the successful conclusion of her mission. She was struck by a powerful subspace shockwave, causing the destruction of the Klingon moon Praxis. Upon discovering the case of the disaster, Sulu immediately contacted the Klingon High Council to offer his ship's assistance. The Klingons, however, turned the offer down, requesting that Sulu obey the treaty stipulations and remain outside the neutral zone. Thereafter, Sulu reported the incident to Starfleet Command. Following the arrests of James T. Kirk and Leonard McCoy on charges of assassinating the Klingon Chancellor Gorkon, Captain Sulu ordered an aborted raid into Klingon territory from Sector 21-185 on an ill-advised rescue attempt. Sulu, who had attempted to sneak the Excelsior into Klingon territory by traversing the Azure Nebula at maximum warp, was discovered by a Klingon battlecruiser commanded by Kang. While Sulu explained that the Excelsior was on a survey mission studying the nebula and had gotten lost due to malfunction in the navigation system, Kang offered to escort the Excelsior back to Federation space. As the Excelsior emerged, she fired a modulated positron beam that triggered a thermochemical reaction and successfully disabled the decaying ship. The Excelsior then made a break for Kronos, but was almost immediately intercepted by 3 Klingon battlecruisers. The Excelsior and the Klingon ships continued to exchange fire until the Excelsior was forced to retreat back to Federation space. The Excelsior was viewed as a potential participant in Operation Retrieve and would have worked alongside the U.S.S. Eagle and the U.S.S. Potemkin. According to the plans, the Excelsior would have to provide protection along the Potemkin's starboard flank as the latter ship retrieved the 2 Starfleet officers. Shortly thereafter, the Excelsior joined the Enterprise A at Kittimer, where the 2 ships battled Chang's bird of prey. Due to the ship's cloaking technology, the 2 Federation starships were at a disadvantage until a modified torpedo from the Enterprise A took out. The Excelsior and the Enterprise A were then able to destroy the bird of prey with a combined attack. The Excelsior's crew aided the Enterprise A in preventing an assassination of the Federation president at the Kittimer Accords. The U.S.S. Excelsior was first mentioned in the script of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, in which Kirk stated Sulu was going to have command of the Excelsior by the end of the month. Apparently, Sulu's presence aboard the Enterprise at that time was solely a courtesy to Kirk. The Excelsior was featured in the story outline Star Trek III: Return to Genesis, which served as the conceptual starting point for Star Trek III's Search for Spock, and was dated 16 September 1982. However, in the first draft of the script of Search for Spock, dated March 23, 1983, the ship was instead renamed the Valiant. The U.S.S. Excelsior was designed for production of Star Trek III after the review of several prototype studio model ideas. Built by ILM, this highly detailed studio model was reused for many guest appearances until 1994, when it was refurbished to become the USS Enterprise B, and later the USS Lakota. The ship's computer voice was supplied by Star Trek star Leonard Nimoy, who was credited as Frank Force. The Excelsior's motto, as seen on the ship's dedication plaque, was "No matter where you go, there you are," a quotation from Buckaroo Banzai. According to the Star Trek Encyclopedia, the Excelsior was launched either in 2284 or in 2285. In the Pocket TOS novelizations of Star Trek II and Star Trek III by Vonda N. McNair, it was stated that Sulu helped design the ship and was originally slated to be her captain at the time of the minor training cruise in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. It was further explained in the novelization of Star Trek III that the arrogant Captain Styles was placed in temporary command by Starfleet Admiral Morrow as a part of an effort to sequester those with direct knowledge of Genesis and Starfleet's unwillingness to delay trial runs until the controversy subsided, due to the considerable investment of the ship's development. In the novel Forged in Fire, Sulu became captain of the Excelsior in 2289 after Captain Styles was murdered by the Albino. The Lost Era novel, The Sundered, was set aboard the Excelsior in 2298 with Chekhov as the first officer, Christine Chappell as the chief medical officer, Leonard James Akar as security chief, Janice Rand as communications officer, and Tuvok as a science officer. In the Lost Era novel One Constant Star, the Excelsior was destroyed in 2308 after passing through a temporal rift. Captain Sulu and his surviving crew are rescued 11 years later by the USS Enterprise B, commanded by Sulu's daughter Damora. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe.